Welcome to our third ever podcast of Yes and. I have two of my very close friends here who have many stories to share, many of which I'm sure they probably can't share here yet, but we are excited to engage with ideas. And the whole idea behind the Yes and podcast is that we, much like a comedy improv, rather than saying no but, which is how most ideas are confronted these days, we want to say yes and build on honestly, just build on ideas. That's how humans have gotten to where we are. And so that's what we want to shoot for. Do you want to just do a quick round robin intro? I've already gone. We did this last time, but if you want to go again, and then you can practice.
Justin, I'm a full-time day trader the last 15 years. Vegas for the last 3, just trying to explore life and a lover of deep communication.
Charles Travet, or Atlas, as I'm known in the burner crowd. I am a full-time lover of humans, and it's my passion in life to connect to anything and everything around me. Nature, animals, myself, and I'm blessed to be here with two of my favorite humans in the world.
I love it too, bro.
So I love that answer, actually. I feel like when people are like, so introduce yourself, I feel like you actually introduced yourself. Like, not that you do, but I feel like that was a cross section of you that revealed a lot.
Yeah, it's used to. I think that we all tend to answer with, what we do for money, or what we do with our passions or hobbies. But like for me, I'm just here in the moment. All I want to do is connect. And then when I tell myself that, I'm able to just be there, be here with you, instead of thinking about what my obligations are.
I was reminded of something as you were saying that, which was when you want to connect with somebody deeply and you're listening, don't think about what you're going to say next. Just listen, and then you'll know what to say when you get there. Which I thought while you were talking, and then I stopped thinking that because that's exactly what I wasn't supposed to do. And then I listened, and I did definitely feel like I connected more deeply. It may be worth, at some point during our conversation, and it can travel wherever it travels, but it may be worth it to actually talk about what you do in the free hug space. I think the idea that we wanted to explore is fundamentally, what does it mean to be a good human? Anybody know?
Still working on it.
Oh, I thought you would have an immediate answer.
I
I didn't do the group project.
think we all would have. I think we all have different philosophies on what it means to be a good human and what is important in life. But I think I'm constantly searching to be more of a good human every day, every moment. I think sometimes we get lost in things that we feel like we're supposed to do or supposed to achieve, but I think being a good human sometimes is just being there, either being there for someone in the moment, for yourself in the moment, for the earth. That's all involved with being a good human. It's just being aware of where you are. But I don't have a set definition by any means.
I love that Brene Brown, once she was like talking at a conference, and a bunch of social workers and sociologists and stuff. She's like, how many people here study love? 3 hands in a big room or whatever. Like love, like people study love. And it's like, how many people would want to leave these doors and never know love again? And so one of the most critical core experiences for humans, and yet in some ways, we do spend almost all of our time thinking about it, probably, like love and connection. My favorite definition of love is unguarded connection. But it's being a good human is also weird. We know all these definitions. Like, what is a mitochondria? What is like what's a good human? Oh, I don't know.
I actually have a definition.
Oh,
or at least for me. Obviously, it's just going to be personal. And it kind of goes with my sort of outlook on the world. It's very sort of, it's a little open-ended, value-based. Well, it's each person wanting to add value to the world, like wanting to, and so it's open-ended enough for that to be whatever. It could be saving the environment, it could be even improving yourself would add value to the world or brighten the day. And obviously there could be different degrees of effectiveness with that, but it's kind of the intention and reasonably working towards adding value to others.
Yeah.
That's really good. Checkmate. We're done.
Hey,
That's a wrap.
And like I remember we had me and Justin, we've had that conversation about what percentage of people are good. My
Charles is like 100.
No, I said
130%.
I said 95%. And based on your definition, I'd say 95% of people are good.
Want to add value?
Yeah, want to add value to the world, or desire to, or aspire to do something that even if it actually isn't as useful, it may be detrimental. Like they want to do good, like even if they work a job that they think is doing something great, but is actually setting the world back a bit. I think people have these intentions of doing.
I love that this is getting at the core of the yes and, because almost no one thinks they're not a good person.
Almost no one.
And yet also, yes, and almost everybody else thinks that the other side, the other team, is like ruining everything. I think if we can find that space that accounts. Here's an idea. Values are one of the very few things that are fairly like intractable to affect in like argument. You can talk about policies, but the values that a person comes with, those are really hard. Those take years or conversions to change. Like you have to like convert to a different belief system to change your values.
I often do not engage with attacking or trying to change anyone's values because it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. It's okay to give someone a different perspective or show them, hey, what about this? Or, just give them some options. But attacking someone's values is how you end up, flaming, shooting fire at each other. And I think that falls into the realm of religious beliefs as well. Like, you're not going to change someone based on anything that comes out of your mouth. It has to be something that arises out of their own, usually something fairly significant that makes them have a different outlook on life or an outlook on just beliefs, values.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason why it's harder to do that is because you're like not really addressing the framework. So it's kind of like a symptom of the situation. It's like you're trying to reduce the fever, but that's not really like fighting the infection. So if you want to like change somebody's values, it's like, are you changing their religion? It's like, you have to change the underlying foundation and then their values shift. Like, are we serving this higher being? Are we serving like the trees? Like, what's the actual foundation instead of yours?
It's interesting. So I actually went, both converted into Mormonism, and then I would describe involuntarily converted out of Mormonism. This is a kind of important part of the story, because I've been thinking about conversion and what a trip it is. I was at BYU, right? And when an idea set is defending itself, like complicated ideas, complicated defenses, right? Kind of hard to get into, hard to get at. They'll have kind of prepackaged, and then I don't want to make this just a dig on Mormons, it's just my experience, but like it'll come with kind of anti-aircraft gun installations around. So if anything gets over the target, it starts taking flak, right? So the first thing that would normally happen is if you hear something that would be contrary to the LDS philosophy, you would just discredit the source. Like that's anti-Mormon literature. That's about as far as you need. That's as far as they would normally take it. It's like, that's, literally authored by Satan to some degree or other within the framework of the theology, and will lead you astray. And then just don't engage. But the problem that I had, of course, is that I'm at BYU learning things, like a lot of things about the actual history of the church. And from BYU professors, from historians within the church. And it's if we want to take this podcast that direction, because we want to be yes and. I don't know how we make, well, we got to figure out how conversions work, right? Like that's like an important part. Because then you could see what's true about you on all sides of the conversion. That would be neat. But in any case, for me, I had a semester where I was learning a bunch of genetics and philosophy and history of the church and medical micro and just evolutionary biology and just enough courses to kind of have like maybe there's other ways, maybe we don't know all the ways, but maybe there's another reasonable way to explain how we got here. And that kind of allowed for like a temporary operating system, enough to kind of look back at the church. And the things that we were learning were like, LDS folks will know all of them will know who Joseph Smith was.
LDS.
Latter-day Saint. But kind of the more polite way that they like to be called. And having gone on a mission and stuff, I was all trained in it. But they will know who Joseph Smith is. They'll know who Oliver Cowdery is. They'll know who Sidney Brigham is. Emma Smith, like Joseph Smith's wife. But they won't know the name Fanny Alger. I remember like learning about this in church. Like, in the classrooms are also meeting halls sometimes on Sundays. And I'm learning about this from this professor. And I'm like, Fanny Alger was Joseph Smith's 14-year-old maid, right? In the Smith household. And she gets pregnant. And this is already, the church is popular at this point. And everyone's like, who's the dad? And she's like, Brother Joseph. He got the maid pregnant, right? Mm-hmm. And then what does he do? He says, what would you do? You get caught?
It was the higher source.
Exactly, right?
Immaculate.
God told me to do it. Right?
Yeah.
God told me. I didn't want to, but I had to fulfill the spiritual keys or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's super. I was like, wait, what? Like, we believe, like, this is what we believe? Like, this is actually like the church stuff?
Yes.
So you couldn't discredit the source, because I was at the source. And I remember just eventually, I said involuntarily, like that plus a few other stories that were just like, why weren't we told this at the beginning? And I remember going to church one time, and it was a stake conference, so it was a big group of people. And I remember feeling like I was watching a tribe of like someone from somewhere from far away worshiping some other god, but it was supposed to have been my God. And I just couldn't suspend my disbelief any further. Like, I fell out of the church, but then you don't know what's true instead.
Zero foundation to is like reinstall a new operating system.
Exactly.
From scratch.
But yeah, like, I mean, you're very, very, your knowledge of history is tremendous. And we've had this conversation before about history being written by the winners. The people who there's so much that's omitted in history because people wanted to be thought of favorably, or they wanted to have monuments built after them, to be seen as good people, to be seen as saints. And it was fairly devastating to me as a student of history growing up, finding out so much that what was sometimes outright lies. And it was really devastating to me. And that's what changed from me being religious, from me being studious and trying to find knowledge in the almanac and in history books, and starting to go out into the mountains, starting to go out and just find truth that I could feel, that I could actually touch. I mean, at a certain point, you just have to say, how much am I going to suspend my disbelief to continue to believe in whatever system I'm in?
What parts of you remained intact across your experiences of the universe?
Which parts you mean?
Like, so we talk about conversions, so it's like you're telling a conversion story, right? And
I mean, the first thing I think of is like what we talk about with parts theory, and the parts of me that are in my subconsciously written into my code because of coping mechanisms that I've had growing up that I haven't shooken quite just yet. Those I'm still carrying.
Think about all the songs, like you hear a song from the 80s or something that you haven't heard in like literally 30, 40 years. And you're like, I know every lyric. It's still in there. Yeah. It's floating around in your head. Yeah. Like, wait, ready to go. Like if you just
phone numbers of people that I grew up with.
Or like popular ads of the back in the day. Like, this is why parts I think is actually hyper explanatory. Those gosh, you can go really, I don't think we're going to go super complicated, but like mimetic theory that like in the same way that some genes can come together and be more adaptive for the organism, if you have like genes that do this and this and this, and they come together, and then it's like, oh, all three of those together is like way better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then they hang out like in an organism, right? You could have the same thing, but with idea genes.
Just like this, like the theory of also, well, I feel like it's not even a theory, but taking genes from different species makes the offspring stronger.
Yeah, it is like that. And it's like that with Richard Dawkins, like the 70s. He wrote this book, The Gene's Eye View, and introduces the word meme to the world. He's the first meme. Like, he defined the word. He made up the word. He's like, we need to talk about something like a gene, but it would be like a behavior or something that's emulable, like could be like ideas or like a picture, right? And he said, but it varies a little bit each time. And in evolution, to drive evolution, all you have to have is variation. Something's like he uses like, here's the church, here's the steeple, look inside at all the people, right? Which only rhymes in English or whatever, but it's common, it's like, how the hell did that get in our heads, right? Like, in all of our heads, and it's been hundreds of years that it's been in people's heads, like just floating around. Well, it turns out that like if there's variation, so people might do it slightly differently, like the inside part with the people, the more it rhymes, the more popular it becomes. So you have selection, meaning that some get copied, some don't. Variation, because everyone will approach it a little differently, and it can adapt, and it'd be interesting to see it's in different languages. And then you have reproduction. So the fact that I can put it from my head into your head, or God, that's been through a lot of heads, like that one little rhyme, and we're full of millions of them. So he introduces the idea of meme, and some memes, when they combine together, are more successful at reproducing because they're together. Susan Blackmore wrote a book where she talks about meme plexes. They really started to look at like the genetic formulas and just applying to ideas. A lot of ideologies or religions probably are well understood through that lens. But what they would do is, if I said, knock on this table, no takers? Okay. If I said, knock on this table and you will have a good day tomorrow.
Takes a superstitious taker.
Yeah.
Table.
Knock on this table or one of your family members will die tomorrow.
Charles?
I'll be here.
All right, but
Also takes a superstitious taker.
Do you feel the
little bit.
like that's kind of like a
little bit of
maybe wouldn't hurt, right? Like maybe or maybe it's
Not Charles Mike, but he's not Mike.
It's like when you combine a behavior with a consequence or a reward, right?
Yeah.
And if it's told to you when you're 4, then you won't know the difference, right?
Yes.
So the ideas end up getting spread, and good luck at getting an idea. Like, I'm looking at the camera here. Like, good luck getting an idea out of your head that goes in before you're 5. Like, it's almost impossible. No matter how clever you are, you think about all the cleverest, doctors and physicists, and the ideas that go in, like around the world. Just, it's like the Santa Claus cutoff, right? Like, when that one gets a little sketch, and you're like, okay, now we'll stop. Everything else now you can scrutinize, but everything before, that's sacrosanct. That's tradition. That's what we believe in.
It's just like, we've had these conversations about stuff that we grew up saying incorrectly. Like, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but, like, something that you grew up saying your whole life, and then someone tells you in your mid-20s, like, they hear you say the phrase, and like, wait, what did you just say?
So I had that with a friend. Her mom always called it grizzle. Like the stuff that, instead of gristle that gets in your teeth. And she was like, yeah, you guys have some grizzle over there? And we're like, wait, say that again? Or all that back?
Like, the door is right there. Get out.
We're like literally looking up, and she was like,
"You don't want your life."
My gosh, this has been
my whole reality is
30 years.
I mean, you could almost imagine like some sort of like twisted reality. I think maybe some parents do this for fun, honestly. And maybe it's a twisted reality. But you could teach. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but somebody I know, he thought it would be hilarious when he has kids to teach them the wrong animal sounds. Because they might not get caught for a while, right?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
and at some point, At some point, I think it's illegal to teach your kid like a sock is a car or something, like just assigning different words. And so that's like probably borderline enough.
That's the other thing. I mean, you can't tell someone else how to raise their children.
No.
Like they
No.
they
To
can.
some extent.
I mean,
Like I just said, it's illegal to like
it's
just
not.
assign.
It's not illegal.
It's illegal to like, you're training or like raising a kid training, and you just tell them different words for everything. Like that's a treat. No, that's a kite. You just like assign incorrect words.
I think you're.
Not illegal.
I think you're.
It's a
I
different language.
feel like we're literally defining the distinction between like Spanish and Portuguese.
You realize how difficult, like
You're
he's saying that's for life, like how difficult, like that's a form of child abuse almost, right? If you just assign everything wrong and now they have to reprogram, like what is a book? Like I thought that was, an elephant.
I love this because I feel like you are yes and yes and
I mean,
is
you
helpful.
look at the values that some people have out here in the world, and are completely different than ours, completely different than yours. And their parents raised them to be a certain way, to think a certain way that is completely contrary to what you may think. And it could be a completely different language that they call flowers, crocodiles, but like it's not illegal.
but they might kill them if they.
Okay, so we were talking about island values. We're talking about like adding value, like that's definitely a good person. Like you're adding value. If you just have somebody maliciously being like, "No, we're gonna shuffle all the assignments of words," like you're intentionally not adding value. There's like religions that maybe aren't serving you, but they believe
Yes,
they're adding value.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to get to. That's what
Well,
I was going to get to. Like that isn't being a good person. It's raising your child to be first and everything.
The consequences. It's in the consequences. Like, do this or else. I do actually want to just maybe speak briefly about like the different Judeo-Christian cultures without going too particular. But if you believe in the wrong God, depending on which angle you're coming at it from, it's either they don't really have any good outcomes. So it's your duty to go and make sure they don't believe in false gods, right? Like, not my fault your God's false, right? It just happened. I just happened to be born in a time and place where we believed in the right God.
It's so
And all the other tribes are they're worshiping false idols and need to be, like it's like that's and but they all yes. Thanks for keeping it that way.
That was the root of my questioning religion when I was young. Was when I asked my mom had answers for all these different questions I had growing up, leading up to when I was 5 years old, and I would ask, why does this happen? Why do bad things happen to good people then? And she'd be like, well, God works in mysterious ways, but she never had an answer for why are there so many religions? If there's only one God, if there's only one book that is the truth, why are there so many religions? People who believe all these different things, and she never had an answer for me, and that's why that would set me on a quest to find out the truth on my own.
I like that. What I sense in that is you have a value of you don't want to believe in false things.
Yes,
That's not a value that I think everyone espouses. Some people don't much care to know
for something.
Yeah, like are there just
But if you zoom back, it's wasting time. Like you don't want to waste time, and like most people still feel like most people follow that belief for the most part. Right?
So when I was in the Mormon church, you get so deep into it, you have so much to lose by exiting. Potentially your family, right? Your marriage, your work. If that's your universe or you're at the university, or for me, I stopped believing like my junior year, get expelled. Like you can't stop believing. You have to keep believing. At least you have to say that you do. Right? You're not allowed to convert to something else. It's literally like forbidden, right? Like the constellation of ideas that protect successful memes, but like make them complicated philosophies. They kind of start with first, discredit the source. It would almost be an indicator that you're walking into a complicated idea space. If you think about, I don't want to go politics on this one, but if you think about politics, the very first thing people will say is, oh, that was that network that said that. Or, that was that network that said it.
Intentional.
It's the first step of like, it's the easiest way. You just discredit the source, you don't have to deal with the content, right? For some folks, it would almost be like a neat decoder ring. Like what else is like that? Where we're like, politics, religion. Is there anything else where we protect our ideas like that?
I mean, I think we still have internal defenses for all frameworks. Like even say mine is logic. Like, if the thing is not logical, like, I don't really need to go down that road.
So it says logic, right?
Yeah, so like, there's still a defense. It's just, and that's kind of, yeah, how we preserve our own criteria. You know, if you want to say it's facts, oh, that's the definition of facts. It's not feelings. It's not.
Otherwise annoying. Yeah, the idea of self is actually
Pure
self-protecting as well.
Yeah, there's a
story of yourself.
self-protection, defending your own beliefs.
Yeah, or your ego, right? Like you protect the ideas as though it's your body.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
part of-
Yeah.
And in facts, that's what I was talking about earlier about I used to be obsessed with stats and facts and the truth. And it's very muddy now that I know that, you know, I can't trust I can't trust that what I'm reading in all history books is actual fact. You can read so many different contrarian views of what actually happened or what actually occurred, and so like what is a fact anymore?
Well, like your mom was saying, like, she was looking for. Well, you were looking for evidence to a question that she didn't have an answer to. In my experience with Mormon, what's called apologetics, it's called that in all the religions, but like when you answer criticisms about the way you think about things, apologetics, you can align. This is what actually I remember, like, as I was leaving, I remember sitting in class thinking about this. You can explain why Nephites, like in Mormon theology, the Native Americans were like refugee Jews. Like they came here a long time ago, right? So that should be like genetically testable. Like that would be like it'd be receipts, or mentions of horses or like just anachronistic stuff, or like steel being used before it was kind of over here. But you can make 1,000 excuses in a row. Like even Joseph Smith having going to the maid, right? Like a lot of the ancient prophets had wives and concubines, right? And the Christians that you're talking to probably believe that those books were true, and probably believe that God told them to do it. So you can have like thousands of excuses in a row. It probably is literally thousands, and keep your belief intact. Or what happened to me was I just could no longer. It was like 4,000 things or one thing. He was a cult leader, and then everything basically falls and fits into one explanation, a single explanation that accounts for all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or 4,000, there's a traveling mummy show, and he buys the mummies and the papyri that go with it, and then those are like, it turns out, wow, like those are actually written by Abraham, like, it's like, it was a traveling road show of, just like it's so many things in a row, or one thing. But I'm wondering if we're missing something as blatant, like being honest with ourselves about what are we missing that's as blatant here now. What are we missing? You guys think about it for a sec. You guys think do you see anything we might be missing?
That's specifically to each of us in our lives.
I'm thinking almost like probably at the cultural or historical level, like.
You mean, what is everyone missing?
Yeah, we're pretty close to it.
I mean, I guess what comes to mind for me personally is kind of grappling with the concept that we're all connected. I don't know if that would change a lot of war situations and disagreements if we all kind of see ourselves in other people. That's sort of hard to do, and I don't.
It's like the great cousin experiment. Like we're all cousins in a way, but then it gets kind of weird. I didn't take that too far.
Like, yeah, when you die, some people believe, yeah, when you die, you go back in this sort of cosmic consciousness soup, and so.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with oneness and the connectivity of all of us. The ability to see yourself in another, which I think is integral in being a good human, is being able to see why someone, be able to understand where someone is coming from. We understand that they had a different experience than you that makes them think the way they do, so that you can come to a compromise in all situations, so that you don't resort to violence or to.
It does seem to betray that some things have gone too far, right? Like that, like we were talking about, you're getting near some sort of, somebody's set up a perimeter when you start hearing don't listen to that, right?
Yeah.
Like that's okay. Like okay, there's something around here. Like let's figure out what's being defended, right? Or maybe it's a
Yeah,
constellation
when
of
you said
things.
that, about the church saying that everything that wasn't the Mormon teachings was just, sacrilege. It don't go anywhere near it. I'm like, that's
It'll make
censorship.
you, yeah.
That's,
It'll contaminate your mind and challenge your testimony. And there's a whole story that goes all together with it. I was just thinking about what was my train of thought here? The constellation, it coming to violence and that being an indicator of things gone too far. I think one of the things we might be missing is eating animals. It's like one of the ones where I feel like you poke at it, you're like, well, I don't eat the smart ones, but we eat pigs. Most people eat pigs, but they're like definitely like probably smarter than dogs. So it's like when you think the reason that you think you have for doing something or not doing it is not really the reason, and you can demonstrate it to yourself logically, right? You're like, well, that didn't hold. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Let me make up a new excuse to justify why I do what I do.
Yeah.
But I could see us being viewed one day, or even by people who think differently about that, as like, how did you miss that? Like, how did you miss eating your pets? Like,
I often pose this question to people that if you are able to consume meat, to consume an animal, but are unable to watch how that animal is produced or how it is butchered, then you haven't really earned the right to consume it. I mean, to be as grateful as possible for what the animal went through to be able to nourish you. You should know exactly how. You should know how some of your animals are prepared or how they suffer. Then if they did suffer and you're unable to watch it, then why are you consuming it? Just because you get to go to the grocery store and just.
I agree, but
I
do
don't.
it. Like, I think it's a proper. At least it's.
I don't agree.
Yeah. I was gonna be like,
So you're good.
real quick, and then we'll go there.
I just more like devil's advocate. All right, Charles, you got that hat. That's from China, right? Or like, look, I think you should watch the sweatshops.
So
A little kid like slaving away to make,
It is cute. It's a cute little pig, though.
It's a cute hat though. At least
understanding how,
watch him sweat, Charles. Tell me you need.
He didn't come along for this kind of attention.
Exactly. So if you want to, play with pigs, like.
Well, yeah. The thing is, I've watched the sweatshops. I've watched, how all of our consumer products are made and they're brought to us and the suffering that occurs to make it happen, and knowing that me buying this, actually this was made up. This was actually somebody hand selling this off Etsy, but these are probably from China. But knowing how things, especially things that you eat, I feel like it's important to know the energy that's put into the animal and what goes inside of your body and being cognizant of it.
This is definitely betraying, I think, a value. This is a value of yours. Probably, it would be like I couldn't easily move you from that position.
I mean,
Like,
no,
which is good. It's a good thing. It's
No,
like
no,
we're
no.
talking about like the foundation when you get down to like the core of the value. Like I feel like we're at a core for you. Like,
but it's not though.
purity.
It's something that I've grown into over the course of my life. Spent a couple of years as a vegetarian until I smelled bacon again, and I was just like, lions eat boar, so like, why can't I just be a lion?
I heard this story of a chimpanzee, because they're playful, right? They play with each other, mess with each other. One of the chimpanzees was asleep, and the other one took some poop because they play with their poop. I took some poop and went and put it on his face, and then he woke up, and then he's like covered in poop, and they like the other monkeys thought it was like super funny, and it probably was, honestly, like it probably was. But the one that like realized that he had poop on his face, you know what he did? Like this is documented. He ran to the river to wash it off.
Got eaten by an alligator.
Like that's.
Then got eaten by an alligator.
No, and it wasn't such a funny joke. But like what I find representative in that is, I mean, there's a couple things, right? Number one, that's pretty smart, right? To be like, oh, I need to wash. If that's the basic, the cleanse with water, right? That's like, if that's a deeply instinctually felt, like that's been there for 5 million years, 10 million years, back to common ancestry, right? Like that means that humans are going to have it too. Like we're going to have that innateness. That's going to be an innate thing that animals, the most commonly preferred colors are blue and green. I mean, duh. If you're a lizard and you get thrown in the desert, which way are you going to go? Towards something blue or green, right? Like, it's really, really ancient, like, preferences. Biophilia, I think is what that one's called. But, yeah, for monkeys. And then it's like, well, what if you were to, remember we talked about these constellations of ideas. What if it's like, if you feel dirty or ashamed or guilt or shame, those are the two I think that operate most here. And we're like, there's a way where we can make not just the talky part of you feel better about yourself, but we can make your emotional part feel better about yourself, because it's as ancient of a process as some of those higher order emotions of disgust. It probably is what it was playing off of, which is a core emotion. Man, you can do, like, I was thinking about this, rituals that involve smoke or cleansing, like they kind of have this like washiness to them. Like, we could, I wonder if you could employ that in a less like fatalistic way, because that normally, like, that would represent like a baptism and a change in you, which is the conversion thing that we're talking about.
Saying
Right?
like a less intense cleansing, like Namaste, we sage the room to cleanse the energies.
Is that a thing? That's a thing.
Oh yeah, people
Yeah.
in public
Oh, yeah.
sage to remove the
Yeah,
negative.
or
I need to hang out with you more.
you ever been safe before?
I was thinking about some smoky thing, but I didn't realize that that's kind of how that
Yeah.
whole thing went.
I've got a bunch of sage on my dresser.
Does it make you feel better?
It makes my house smell better. I'll tell you that. It has a great scent to it. Honestly, that's something that I've just hung around enough witches that all sage things, and it's very integral.
Oh my goodness.
But I imagine when you're talking about cleansing and the power of water, I imagine like this, like just a gray monkey that's in a pool of water with all of its friends, and like there's a waterfall nearby, and they're all just cleansing each other. It's nobody taught them to take a bath. Like no one had to say this is how you wash your body. It's just like they were drawn there. They were drawn there to cleanse themselves. Like, yeah, we don't give them enough credit for being just like us. It is innate. I mean, humans are probably the least capable of any baby.
And we talked about Betty White's. I think Betty White's is going to have to come up in every episode because it is so pivotal to
I
understand.
love that.
Betty White almost.
Shout out.
Amen. We can have some sort of ceremony here, but basically, Betty White lived to be almost 100. She was 99, almost 100. So you imagine, Betty White's born, lives to be 100. On the day she dies, she sees a baby born. That baby lives to be 100. Call that a Betty White. So 100 years, because we are terrible at math. Which means that when you go back in time, the United States is 2.5 Betty Whites old. Before that, Jesus was 20 Betty Whites ago. It's actually super new still, like a really recent thing. Agriculture, 80. Woolly mammoths, cavemen is 120 Betty Whites ago.
Can we always
The skepticism of
can we always say maybe?
Wait, only 120 is 1,200 years ago? 12,000?
12,900 years ago, we started to exit the last, like the most recent Quaternary Ice Age.
Okay.
100, like right here, we're in Las Vegas right now. In Las Vegas,
Woolly
mammoths. They were walking here like as recent as like 96 Betty Whites ago. And so the fact that this is so hard, like I love that this
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, no, I hope do. Yeah, so 129 Betty Whites ago, the Ice Age starts to end. The oceans were 400 feet lower 120 Betty Whites ago. Like, that's how fast things have been changing. Right?
Oh, so the last woolly mammoth went extinct about 4,000 years ago.
So that was 40 Betty Whites.
40 Betty Whites, even less.
Even less, because that was like they were on some little island somewhere, like the last remnants. But you've got like, that's how we knew everything. Okay, this is where it gets a little terrifying. It's believed that humans have had abstract language for 30,000 years. But we've been anatomically modern for 200,000 years. How many Betty Whites is 30,000 years? It's okay.
Remember math terrible? Who's right?
Humans don't come standard with counting, so these are what you don't. It's 300 Betty Whites that we've been.
Yeah, 300 add 2 zeros.
That we've been talking. We weren't even we didn't have we don't believe we had abstract language prior to that, but we were anatomically modern for 200,000, which is 2,000 Betty Whites. For 170,000 years, there was probably a version of human that didn't talk, didn't have abstract language. The only thing that they kind of like came up with was like slightly better ways of like hitting rocks together to make arrowheads. For 170,000 years, there's a version of us that doesn't need talking. And I think that when we settle into our animal form, we become mindful and present, and we notice that the thought stream is something distinct from us, I think that's us sitting into the monkey. I think it's like that's the we do all the human stuff just fine without language.
Yeah.
We'll mate, we'll hunt, we'll war, we'll do all the monkey stuff successfully. But we have this ability to copy things that we've heard or seen done, and that's the substrate of language.
You know, like what we feel around each other, empathy. That's it's sometimes without any sorts of words. It's a higher form of communication to vibrationally feel what someone else is thinking, what someone else is feeling around you. Like when a wolf pack, they're all hunting. They don't ask each other, or they don't say woof woof over there, woof woof you go over there. We're trying to corner this antelope. They all feel each other vibrationally. They're communicating vibrationally about where to go to be the most optimal predators they can be, but without barking, without words, without language.
That's a time for silence, right? Elephants do the same thing, but they're using like subsonics, low vibrations. Probably for the same reason, like they don't want to betray where they are to ambush predators.
I feel like language is actually, what we're doing with our mouths is the primitive form of communication.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think language really is a movement, because you're moving your tongue. Like it's a dance. It's a dance we just don't see a lot, and we don't think about it this way because we're focused on how we hear it and understand it now. But fundamentally, it's like you're moving a muscle or a couple muscles in a certain way that somebody else could copy. If you're moving muscles in a way that somebody could copy, it's kind of a dance, right? And the evolution of language is actually want to get a linguist on soon, because I want to have this discussion about like the evolution of language, abstract reasoning. The thing that I'm currently kind of believing is that you have that monkey form of human that we were for 170,000 years. And then we have the 30,000 year language version. But that's just like a patch, right? Like it's a software update, right? But it's agnostic relative to what you will end up believing. If you were born somewhere else, some other time, some other place, you would speak a different language, and that language would have built into it, because it's abstracted at that point, a whole a constellation of beliefs and symbols that represent things that may or may not be true, right? You'd have a whole different god structure potentially, or whatever the traditions were of your tribe, that would be programmed into you, right? Just like it is now. Not necessarily because it's right, but that's just like, it worked for your parents is enough, I guess.
Yeah.
Evolutionarily. But yeah. Because it's like if you want to convert somebody today, modernly, you'd have to substitute out, I think. You'd have to make them distrust what they were told. Distrust the people that told them something. Because that's the thing, is like Richard Dawkins does talk about this in a couple other books, but he's like, anything that a tribal elder or a parent tells a kid in a certain tone, they will just be like, yes, that is the thing. And because of that, you can cement almost any firm belief into a kid, right? And he gives the example of, moths fly into flames, right? Like, why would they do that if they fly into fire? Like, why do they keep doing it, right? You think that would be selected against? The thing is like artificial light sources. That's the new part. Humans regularly having fire is the new part. The moths are trying to navigate where the only light source generally was the moon, and that mostly stays put. Like, well, it's reversed, but like for a moth, it's staying put. And so he's like, you can see a behavior, but it's wrong. Like all humans believe in gods, all of it. All the cultures believe in gods. Why do we have a little god-shaped? This is the question that gets asked. Like, why do we have a god-shaped hole in our hearts, no matter where we're found? And what he and many other scientists assert is that it's not. It can look like that. Like it can look like the moths want to fly into the fire. But really, because of the way their compound eyes work, They're just trying to hold the moon in one spot. And if they hold the moon in one spot, but it's fire and it's close, they'll just do a concentric circle inward and fly to the flame, or the bug zap or whatever. That's how it works. So what looks like a God-shaped hole might literally just be gullibility. Humans are infinitely gullible. We'll believe anything. I'm not talking about whatever you believe in, but all the other beliefs that all the other people have.
Being helpless, maybe to believe anything.
Well, yeah. And as a parent, you're going to do your best and like inform them in this software patch, really. Like, this is what's worked. Start here. Tweak it a little, I don't know how much we even have access to because it's built in language. I wanted to talk about this. I'm so glad we had the opportunity. The language. So there was a time 30,000 years ago, 300 biddiwhites ago, when abstract language didn't exist, which means we couldn't work with the ideas that we're working with now. We're using little shorthand for me to say the word trust, love, clean, baptism. All these are like really complicated words that we didn't invent in a language that we didn't construct. Like the relationship between those ideas exists in the language and then gets like instantiated into us in a human brain, and then we can repeat it. That's like you do software stuff like the runtime. Yeah. Like we are the complexity that we think we have when we're talking to ourselves. We didn't put there. That came to us complicated. And we just have the ability to maybe slightly tweak it. And maybe if you're a genius, maybe you add something brand new. But most of it's just tweaking. 170,000 years, we are just knocking, rocks together to make better arrows. And then eventually we got some good ideas that we could use to make other good ideas. And then those ideas to make other good ideas. But this is like a hope for humanity thing because maybe we haven't come up with the best idea. Why would we think that we've come up with the best ideas yet? Right? There could be a word that would describe something that would bring world peace.
It's not an English.
Despite their best efforts, right? No, that one never panned out. Yeah, no, I hear you.
I thought Charles would say it's love. It's one word.
Well,
That's world peace.
Well, I mean, as you were saying that,
Yeah.
I started thinking about all the things that we have learned, and like the internal dialogue that you have. Yes, it's all borrowed. It might have been you're hearing stuff that you're in your mother's voice, your father's voice, or your teacher's voice, and all that gets regurgitated, and you say things that you've heard from other people. But like sometimes when you go out into nature, it's silent, and you feel ideas that you might not have had before. You feel the simplicity of everything. You stop hearing all the other dialogues, and it's just like this feels real. Like at least that's what I
worry.
have gathered about nature now.
I think that is wonderful and definitely achievable. What I'm concerned with, kind of, I want to say yes and. Yes, it is a way to access a deeper part of us that connects us all. It's like the shared common core monkey element of us, right? Because then we have different recent, 80 bitty white recent, maybe less. Any Christian thing would be 20 bitty whites old, right? Like at most. But like monkeys war, monkeys fight over, like there's this fusion. That's how primates reproduce. They'll come together until there's like too many, or they're starting to feel like the resources are stretched a little thin. And then normally for the great apes, some dudes will be like, let's take these chicks, let's go over there. And then they'll fight over the chicks. And then if it successfully has like a fission, so it separates, then you have two tribes. And they still mostly fight over each other's chicks and resources. And then, but if there's like a good, I want to say cuddle, like a cuddle, like the right amount of like togetherness, but also space, they could just chill there, right? But then resources get scarce. They start like, whose fault is this that the resources are scarce? It's almost like the foundation of politics is built into us as our primate architecture. So maybe you get out in nature and you feel part of it and you're like, I bet there would be no war if I felt this.
If you felt this with the abundance of
Abundance.
love,
That's like
scarcity.
I love this.
Yeah, but as much abundance as you want to channel, that doesn't make more bananas, my friend.
The thing is, like,
You just need to positively think and eat a little more banana rinds.
but like, in a in even in the wild, in jungles, like there is plenty of food. It's just whether there's a banana that you want right now, and this other monkey wants your banana, and then you fight over this one banana just because you didn't want to go up to the tree to get another one.
Reproductive access.
The monkeys are lazy. They're eventually going to run out of bananas if they just stayed, 500 monkeys in one.
If you think about high school, right, what are most of the fights about? They're not about food.
Hierarchy.
They're thinking about hierarchy and they're over girls.
Competition.
Yeah, like at least the dude fights, right? Like,
Yeah.
if we want to use that language, there's going to be forms of scarcity. If somebody could have all of the thing, and then
All
you're
the
like,
chicken.
no, I don't. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't think you should have all of. There's a conflict. Like maybe we should equitably share these, and like blah 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 blah. Like so, it's like that. I don't. Yeah, until we get to like, and I don't want to go into like too much about how the ratings work on YouTube yet. But yeah, it's like conflict. Well, in microbiology land, there's two aspects of this that are interesting. One, sperm competition theories, where you have it's better for like we're bros, like we are stronger together. You can't be a male human and be a complete jerk to your tribe. Like two dudes are stronger than you, and if two aren't, three are, right? And you have to sleep. So you can only get so bad, right? That's like that helps check us at our normal levels. And
I
then
like that phrase. You can only get so bad.
do
You can only get so rebellious, only so abrasive before
you can check. And one of the other kind of like biology things I think that ties in here is the mold that makes penicillin, right? Penicillium. It's just it's a soil microbe. It just does soil stuff. Normally, it doesn't make penicillin. If it made it all day, the bacteria would they would adapt to it and they would become penicillin resistant. It only does it when it senses scarcity. I think it's a phosphate deficiency. So if mineral, like if a particular mineral that it needs, phosphorus is kind of fought over in a lot of nature. Some animals like lock it down cellularly. It's very interesting. But like if it senses scarcity of something that it needs, nuke, and it nukes the soil around itself and kills all the bacteria. That is like penicillin is a weapon of mass destruction. And then it stops making it.
I grew up allergic to penicillin. I've been meaning to test whether I'm still allergic, but I'm afraid I'm a little worried about
the way that it works. You would don't test it. That's
You would be? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if you had to do it's not the sort of thing that you would lose.
I'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, man, I don't know. Like that one can cause some.
Charles is awfully, a little backstory. Charles is awfully cavalier with all kinds of diseases. If somebody has bubonic plague, he's like, it doesn't affect me. I ate my broccoli.
Take a shot.
And then he's ready to go, even though now I know he's immune to, or like allergic to penicillin.
If you want to get scared about that, Yersinia pestis, like bubonic plague, it's endemic in southern Utah.
Man?
Yeah, don't play with dead squirrels in southern Utah. They might not have died naturally. It might have been plague. Like literally, you can isolate plague.
Did you find this out the hard way?
No, I know the whole Utah connection. No, but I did go to BYU. We talked about it in my micro classes. But all right. So where do we go from here? I feel like we should do like after hours. Wouldn't that be kind of fun? Have like one like this, and then another one where we use it what we want, and then
unfiltered.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe coming soon. But for now, I think we need to keep it. Mostly.
Yeah, I'd like to get more, obviously, into that the whole sharing and sharing resources and sharing love, as it's definitely characterized in how I define being a good human, is by being willing to share whatever you have that you value.
For me, love means I do actually view things in terms of like cells, right? Like how many cells are in you? It turns out there's like 40 trillion cells in a person, which is an insane number, right? You and I are sharing resources. Now we are a creature that is 80 trillion cells, and then we're 120. We need some more resources collectively. That's humans, when we come together to exploit opportunity, but not in the bad way, but just like to take advantage of an opportunity that presents itself, like a woolly mammoth. No one human's taking down a woolly mammoth, but if you add up I don't know how many it would take actually, but say 30 humans, right? We can come together, go Voltron mode, and now we can take down something that's by biomass probably our size or smaller, but we don't have to maintain that all the time. We can break back apart. The lions go back to the little resting place of the Voltron.
Have you heard about this?
Yeah.
The gorilla thing is going around right now.
Or the arena thing.
100 men versus one gorilla, and most people are like just taking the gorilla.
Oh, I'm like, absolutely not.
Like most people are taking the gorilla,
100 people?
and I'm like,
You all could just pile on it.
but exactly.
I mean, this has been like not only that, but
And you
humans.
get to choose the people.
But when humans throw things, that's our trick. We throw things. Like we can throw. The gorilla doesn't know how to throw.
Even hand to hand.
We're gonna throw.
Even hand to hand, I believe that. I mean,
throw sharp rocks.
we're gonna lose.
Think that many humans.
Hand to hand, we're gonna lose a couple, yes, but like eventually we could isolate the limbs enough to take down the gorilla if we needed to. But
All right, off to the zoo. Let's go.
three man,
Wait,
three man, one ape.
You know what? That's scarcity. I think your first job. I'm gonna supervise.
I thought you pretend like you're going to the stop. Like,
Charlie, you're gonna hit him right in the face with your body.
Oh, man. I was thinking like the
Wing things. We're gonna fling our poop right back. Duval.
It's where
Let's go find the water.
It's where it starts. The other thing that humans come together for is against threat. Like, so we go Voltron for opportunity, and we go Voltron for threat. And that will induce coherence in us.
It's just gonna send me off. I see how often they put people against each other, against either imaginary or manufactured threats, and it happens all the time. And in almost every war that there's been.
I think that this is like, again, when we know we're over the target of something, like we will notice it because it's like discount the source, like don't listen to the enemy radio transmissions or whatever while they're transmitting. Both sides are transmitting stuff.
Yeah.
Exploiting the thing, like going back to what like Susan Blackmore and this old versions when they were just starting to think about how ideas might come together and protect each other. Like they can. They themselves are doing the Voltron thing, right? When analyzed, maybe they come together in a way that makes it really hard to think about it, or they make you feel guilty. Like, don't think about this too hard; you'll start to feel like it'll induce an emotion. But what I'm wondering is, I don't think that humans. My personal philosophy so far is that humans were not very good inventors of things. Like we criticize AI for like, it hasn't really created a bunch of new solutions to anything. Well, neither did we for like hundreds of thousands of years. We didn't get past arrowheads for most of our anatomically modern time, right? And then copying fire once we saw how fire could be maintained. But that was still, again, like something we copied once we saw it. We don't come just raring to go. We use societal structures and other philosophies to kind of bang together ideas to see if something new happens. What I'm wondering is if love, the idea of love, could be combined because that's all we're probably going to be able to do is like mix and match. Mr. Potato had the idea, right? Is there a way to combine love in a novel way? Or maybe it exists, but it needs to be more widespread. I know this sounds like I'm knocking on the door of polyamory, but I don't think I am. I don't think that's what I'm thinking. This would be something that would cause people to put down their arms. If that's the goal, to treat unguarded connection, like a parent to a child is ideally an unguarded, your resources will freely flow that direction. Like you would sooner starve than see your kids starve. That's love, right?
Unguarded. When you said that earlier, I really love that term. I always say unconditional love is what we should be striving for, but also unguarded, meaning that like you're vulnerable. You are vulnerable as well. Like you open your heart and you're willing to take whatever sorts of offense may come, whatever sorts of distrust that may come, or attacks at your vulnerability. You're willing to accept that. It's unguarded. Unguarded love, I feel like unguarded, unconditional love is what we should all be trying to attain.
I think there is a meaningful distinction between the two versions of that. So saying that love is an unguarded, connected state, right? meaning I'm treating your cells as though they're my cells. Like it's unguarded free exchange of like I will value you as highly as I value everything on me, right? Brotherhood, love, companionship. I think that's love, right?
At the highest level. Is that what
Yeah, probably. It's just the way that we can say love, like
because we don't do that with everyone. I mean, I'm just saying, like,
Well,
you know.
the thing is, I think it's conditional, right? Because if like, and this is where families have to like do some math, because it is possible to break a familial bond. It's possible to break a tribal bond. Like, you can act against your tribe or against your family in a way that is either so untrustworthy or seditious, or you become like you could be converted by somebody else's ideas and then become an enemy of your own tribe. And that happens all the time, right? From the perspective of the Mormons, I did that. Sorry, guys.
Somebody goes and likes another sports team.
And so I think like the unconditional is not a goal. Unguarded connection would be conditional. It would be that we share the same goals. If you break the goal part, if you have different goals, and maybe you can be like slightly different, but if you have like wholesale different goals, you're trying to do something else than what we're trying to do, or you're pretending like you want to be doing, that is not love. And the conditions, I think the limiting principles are where love becomes even more valuable, because it is possible for a kid to be so messed up, like relative to like a family, that they cannot treat him the way that they can't be unguarded. They have to be guarded in their relationship with them. Which I guess I don't know if they're guarding. I don't that's like whose love are we talking
Protecting
about?
yourself, also. I mean, like, you can't. I mean, that's sort of what I was thinking was like, I mean, respectfully, like, we'll just leave it at messed up people. And so you can love them, but you cannot do that unguarded without risk of severe emotional, physical harm.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Without.
We don't probably even know somebody like that. So you can love them, but you can't really be vulnerable around them.
I need you to stay over there.
Yeah. And you can look, especially when somebody breaches your trust, or you know that they aren't safe. You just love them from afar. Like, hey, I still love you, but like,
So you're not
you
really
can't be trusted.
vulnerable. You're kind of even your safety is a distance, keeping your own safety by distance.
But like then that goes back to what we were saying earlier about what percentage of people can't you trust to be within this threshold.
If we think about the cell idea, like your cells and my cells, love, like the kind of love that we want to, we talk about wanting world peace. Like it would be like connecting our blood together. Like literally like that level of unguarded connection. Like we are now one animal, we're one thing.
I mean, that used to be a ritual, right? The blood rituals and like blood brothers and all that. It should be a thing.
From the perspective of a cell in a family, a close family, this is actually, there's not many animals that do this. Only the most pro-social and the pro-social pack hunters, where if you are a wolf or an orca or a human, right? From the perspective of one of your cells, or the well-being of one of your cells, it doesn't really know or care much whether it's in you or you. Like the genes that are shared, all those other ones are familially related. Like wolves hunt in packs, but the packs are related. Humans used to do that when we used to always be related, but then we at some point figured out that we could like become packs of packs, or good tribes of tribes, and then we could like mix and match, and that fission fusion thing kept happening, but it would happen with other neighboring tribes and mix them all up. I think that maybe we're looking. I don't think that we've come to standard with the equipment necessary to love further than we can shout. This is the Brett Weinstein and Heather Heying pointed this out in one of their books, that for most of human history, up until basically a Betty White ago, or two, she didn't say that, but like 100 or 200 years ago, you were never outside of the vocal range of your closest family and friends.
Mm.
You could cry for help,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone that loves you and you love would run to you.
That's a good point, and about like how we're all so interconnected now because of phones and technology, and like it's foreign, and it feels overwhelming to try to love everybody all over the world.
We talked about it being foreign, but wouldn't it be funny if it's not? What if it's just getting back to what it was? If like energy is in a natural human environment, you aren't out of the vocal range of your closest family and friends. Suppose that that's true, right? You can indicate distress, and which would be such a lower anxiety level, like know that everyone would come to you. And then we lost that because of industrialization. I'm not anti all of that, but that's one of the shearing forces on families is it broke families apart, put them in different places at different times. Now there's like they're at work, and then there's other people at the house, and then oh, we're gonna go chase a job over there, and now the family's weaker, and it's like somebody gets addicted to drugs at some point, and then that person can't be trusted, and then they fall out, and like the hacking away of the closeness that we once knew. It's interesting thought I'd get here, but like, is Facebook and Instagram not foreign, but ancestral? And it's just the best we skipped 100 years, and now we can't. If I went on Facebook and I called for help, my closest friends and family would come running. Like, it's true. And we got it back.
But we're supposed to be closer. We're supposed to be in their energetic field. We're supposed to be able, like we're supposed to be here. We're supposed to be able to get there. We're not supposed to be all spread out, across the world and the country. We're supposed to be in a village, yeah, in shouting distance. I do believe that. I think I agree with what you're saying. Like, yes, you can, yes, and you can connect to people. But as far as if you are in peril, like if I can't get to you, if you're in New York right now and I'm in Nevada, and that creates a lot of anxiety for people like my family that is actually in New York, that I can't actually help you physically if you need it.
How much of your day are you actually in your body? And this is broadly more like philosophically about this, but like most of us spend hours in our phone.
You mean like present?
Yeah, like noticing that we are in this room. I mean, we're talking about our physical proximity, and we value this, so it's something that we're noticing. But if we spend, I think 4 or 5 hours is the average amount of phone time now. Like, that is actually where where you're manifesting. You're manifesting online more now than probably, and I'm not saying it's better, but it may not necessarily be worse. I don't know. I mean,
Online, you mean?
Well, I don't know. We got way too separated, obviously. I think it was okay. There's like a golden age thing you gotta be careful about doing, but like, if we're just confining this to like a discussion about the United States, family intactness, reported like happiness levels, right? You have 50s, 60s, kids are still playing in the streets. They're well socialized, right?
Hopscotch.
Yeah. Like, the story then degrades into like all the problems of the 50s, which fair enough. There's always problems. But like, the tribes have been warring with each other for freaking ever, right? The most likely thing to kill you is going to be the tribe on the other side of the hill, right? Or the Highland tribes and your lowland tribes. It's always been a rough day, right? No matter what. We found strength in our closeness there then, and probably maintained that into, I don't know, the 90s maybe, when people got scared of sending their kids up to like play, and then as a substitution, you have something like, in 2006 you have the iPhone, and then you have Instagram and Facebook, and
I remember that in the 90s where like suddenly like there was like this constant threat of being kidnapped all the time.
Yeah. Like, I don't know.
But I feel like that's all intended to separate us from our fellow men, like, to see everyone else as a threat instead of a community member, or as family. I remember constantly my mom calling for me when we're in the store because somebody might have snatched me.
Yeah. This sounded, well, the whole like Halloween candy thing, Halloween candy getting X-rayed.
Yeah.
That was it was a big deal, and then I remember reading about it. Like, it never actually ever happened. There was never a razor blade in a candy. Some small paper reported it could happen, and then somebody else reported it did happen, and then it blew up on the national news. And yeah, and memes, right? These were memes because it was so sensational, right? Like, the idea of putting candy in your kid's mouth and then them choking on a razor blade is terrifying. So they all told each other, "Oh, what are we going to do about it?" Right? I wonder, things are I like the phrase that there are no solutions, only trade-offs. So all of these things were trade-offs for a sense of safety and security. Probably is what that generation traded off their freedoms for,
Yeah.
and that was probably based on a sense of threat that was determined basically for the first time in that 20, 30 years from the TV. The TV is determining what you're afraid of. Might have been a pulpit before that.
That newspaper, for
Yeah.
that, somebody shouting in the square.
Yeah. It's like
For that, a grunt.
well, an actual lion. This is all just like I feel like even if there weren't lions, we would invent like lions because we would sense like humans are so adapted for ambush predators. That was what killed us, right?
You said we would create lions if there weren't lions?
Yeah,
You mean,
I think that yeah.
especially those who want to control the rest?
Yeah, well, that's the ideas that come together that serve the benefit of the idea system. In the memetics thing, you can look at some ideologies, like say, I don't want to take a step in this direction. Let's suppose that you are a member of a church, and I'll just say Catholic because I said Mormon. You're like, and you become in the priest class, and now you're not reproducing, right? Like in a biological view, like, oops, like that's not serving your interests. Like you just sterilized yourself. I know it didn't work out that way, but
Immediately, but like you bettering the tribe still passes on. Like if you even one gorilla like is no longer able to have reproduce, if he's still protecting the tribe, it still passes on genes. It's not specifically his, but it could be
that's
his.
very true when there's major selection events, right? Which I think it's kind of debatable whether that's even happened. This is only the Catholic Church is 1780 years old, right? It's not that old, and it's one of the oldest ones. So I don't know. I think actionable, like where we go from here, if we're trying to like tie this up, there's probably new ideas that aren't discovered, like undiscovered ideas, because we're so terrible at coming up with new ones. I don't think I've ever come up with a new idea. Have you ever come up with something new?
Like under the sun?
No,
Exactly.
like a new word that describes something that's never been described.
Sure, made up words. It's not like I regularly use them.
Okay, but like what did they describe? Use other words to describe the thing that you noticed that hadn't been noticed before in language.
I think everything has been done.
Sort of and sort of not. One kind of interesting thing is if you shuffle a deck of cards right now, that exact order, odds are like astronomical that it has never been shuffled that way before. Yeah, like more than stars in the galaxy. That combination of
It's like a 51
cards.
factorial or whatever.
Yeah. So like you also, I think similar with like chess games or something like that. You also have done something unique with that. That hasn't ever been done.
This gets
so many permutations.
Garden State, like what's her name? The actress in Garden State. She goes "Beep, boop, beep, boop." Like nobody's ever done that. Maybe
Elliot?
Yeah, it's Zach. Yeah, Zach. Okay, maybe, and maybe that behavior, if it were super cool and like you, that was how you pulled an arrow back better.
Yeah.
Like yeah, that one would probably stick in. But I work with ideas all the time, and aside from like scooting ideas together for comparison and seeing if talking about what the comparison, if it shakes anything noticeable out, and now we're broadcasting it. I didn't ever invent any words. Like when you get a PhD, it's like your undergrad is designed to bring you up to the vocabulary of your discipline. You know what all the things are. You kind of know how they relate to each other. The master's degree brings you up to the state of the art of the discipline. So it's journals and like reading about all the things that are currently being discovered. And then a PhD, you have to go out into the world, ask a question, and ideally either identify a relationship or something new that hasn't been described and brought into the body of knowledge. So you're like, you go, you discover, you bring back, and you introduce it into the conversation. Everything in our world, like metal or transistors, or like these are like some people did that. The brilliant people probably, the really brilliant people, came up with the idea of like a transistor or an LED. Like there's inventions. When you think about there's a lot of technological inventions ahead of us. But what if there's like social and emotional inventions that we could utilize. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you buy it?
I recently stayed at this hotel room in Big Bear that it was kind of very eccentric, and they had a book in there called Book of Obscure Sorrows. And that's sort of semi-misleading title, but basically it was a bestseller on just a list of different words that were made up to describe different sensations that humans have. It's like, I'm gonna have to look up, like, I actually took screenshots of some of them, but it's kind of like that obscure sorrow you have, or that obscure feeling of exhilaration you have from reconnecting with a long lost friend. Like just kind of like different nuanced feelings that you're like, oh yeah, we could assign a new word to that. And like you can.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea too. Because then you can that's an abstraction. Like you're abstracting now. You're taking some like phenomenological, like something that's you're observing happening,
Right.
and you're putting it into word form. And then once it's in word form, or a couple of word forms or paragraph form, whatever. Now you can like work with it and be like, okay, well, how does that idea relate to? And then you can start to use the other capacities that we have. But remember, also humans don't even come standard talking. So like the whole language thing is also a super imposition.
I feel like English has definitely failed us in not giving us the proper terminology for so many things that like Justin said, there probably is a word in another language for seeing your long lost friend that you haven't seen in a long time, but we don't have a accurate description of it, except the limited amount of vocabulary.
Ironically, I speak Portuguese, and eu sinto saudades. It's like the longing, missing you.
So like, here's an example of Addleworth, and it's an adjective that they just sort of made up. Unable to settle the question of whether you're doing okay in life. Feeling torn between conflicting value systems and movable goalposts, which makes you long for someone to come along and score your progress into discrete and measurable units, points, dollars, friends, followers, or a grade point average, which may not clear up where you're going, but would at least reassure you that you're one step closer to getting there.
I like that. Like, I think that's worth noting, right? Like, maybe all you do as a human is you bring value, right? That's kind of where it started to.
Mix things.
Yeah. It's like you just notice something slightly. Maybe it's been noticed, but it's under discussed, right? And so you try to bring attention to it. But maybe you notice something different. Like, we'll go in the polyamory direction for just a second. But like polyamory, like there were unconventional ways. I mean, almost a conventional way of marriage we would consider unconventional now, right? Mm-hmm. So like there's polyandry, polygamy, both, right? And there's different ways of doing it, different ratios of people. But they decided to try something a little different, just recombining ideas. Like, what if we did like the sharing thing that we're doing with communes, but we did like marriage, and we like shared that? Or how like we don't think it's cool to own people anymore, like not okay. What if we did that, but with their sexuality, right? What if nobody owns your sexuality? Like, let's try that. We could see if that sticks, right? I think that's largely where it probably came from, just like the recombining of the ideas that were popular in its era. I don't know, what do you think?
Somebody does. I mean, if you're doing monogamy, somebody does own your sexuality, right? They have a monopoly. Literally a monopoly.
At least they have they can lay a legal claim, actually, like classically a legal claim on it. That's interesting. That is treating your sexuality as property.
They're owning your sexuality. Right?
Yeah?
I don't approve of that message.
Interesting. Okay, so where are we going?
A different direction was sort of coming to mind. We mentioned world peace a few times, and I shared with you guys that clip from Dr. DeMartini sort of arguing that I don't think world peace is necessarily a thing that could happen with humans, and we kind of always have oscillated to roughly the same amount of world peace throughout how many Betty Whites. Mm-hmm. Like, there's always war going on somewhere, and like peace going on somewhere else. And like that's sort of just what's programmed into us.
Agreed. I think that's both self-evident, and it's when things are self-evident, like they keep happening, even when they're like built up. Like there was an internal principle at maybe the cellular level of competition, alignment, who's related enough to who, and how scarce are the resources. And then it's just, it doesn't matter if you're, and then you go up to the national level.
Yeah.
If we had other planets that we visited, we do the same thing, right? Like, it would just be now interplanetary war.
Sure.
Would it also affect other primates or just mammals in general? Yeah, no, like I think we're pretty screwed unless we start. Maybe you could chemically alter what we are. Like this has been discussed and
There's
explored,
always
yeah,
going to
like,
be finite resources. And Charles, even if you're saying like, there's enough bananas for everyone, you can only pay your attention. Even there's plenty of fights, even high school fights about who's paying attention to who. Like you have finite resources of attention, right?
yeah.
So like even that is like little mini wars and spats and part of us loves it. I think part of us is even drawn to it. How many people watch soap operas or sitcoms or like we like that.
Yeah.
A little, it gets us
That's
excited. Even in caveman times, in a cave, you got people around a fire being like, it was a roar, and then it went roar, and we were like, like we are drawn towards that stuff.
Yes, very well said. And yeah, like the scarcity of attention is why so many relationships fail, because when someone feels that they're not getting your scarce amount of time here on this planet, suddenly they feel slighted and fights happen.
I went on a Wikipedia dive, which can get real deep for me. I can go deep into the Wikipedia. I don't know why, but I feel like I needed like update my cell count. That's why I knew it was like 40 trillion. 30 to 40 trillion is a great estimate, right? It moves around, cells differentiate and divide and stuff all the time. But then I was like, I wonder how many cells are in a blue whale. Like that's my spirit animal. Blue whale. Guess how many cells?
How many people fit in a blue whale?
That's actually a good way to get there. It turns out it's 100 quadrillion cells.
That was my next guess.
I figured it would be.
How many people fit in a blue whale?
It's like 100 with 15 zeros. And those cells. So the thing is, I want to believe in hope. I think there's hope. I think there's new ideas that, just like there's new inventions, we can invent new ideas that can combine with ideas of love that can make us love harder across divides or something. Like there's probably ways we can combine that. Like against a common threat, humans do come together. We just have to have big threats to come together in big ways.
We don't have to think anymore. ChatGPT will do it for us.
And I think you're super duper right about that. We'll definitely do an AI episode. Yes, and it's gonna be tricky on that one. But 100 quadrillion cells.
No, never.
Not only that, and they have to mate. They have to mate. So you need at least 200 quadrillion cells to get along, find each other sexy, right? Then
Looking at that cell.
okay. This is one of the reasons why I like them is they mate in groups of 3. I'm pretty sure I've double checked this mechanism, but they're so big that the males will just bump the female away. So there's another male.
One helps. So yeah,
There's 2 dudes, 2 males,
one's in the chair,
and then they switch.
They switch.
Yeah, that's and they have that instinct to do it, and that's what makes it like beneficial to both males.
Animal being animal.
All right, kids. Let's wrap it up. This is good. We've got things to talk about. Any last thoughts or words?
I think ask ourselves, are we being a good human throughout our lives, throughout our days? There's always times where we might look the other way, turn a blind eye to something. But what would
Do it.
what would Jesus do? No, but like I mean, the character of Jesus does exemplify a lot of the things that a good human would do. There's plenty of Jesuses in all sorts of religions, but I like that we're having these discussions. I like that we're here trying to go in deeper on what we believe, but also to bounce off ideas of how we can all be better.
the slowest step in this. This was the last time, and I'll try to move us through quickly.
I
And
mean, AI can help with that.
oh, I wish it were better at it. It's months away, probably months away. It'll be useful enough. We'll see how well this works. Maybe it will. To those that were watching, thank you, and we'll do more of these. We love you. Be a good human when you figure out what it is.